Hey everyone, it's Hillary Meekum. I am on day 33 of my own Whole90 journey, and if you're wondering why I'm doing this, you can check out day one. And as I move forward, I'll probably expand more on why I'm doing a Whole90. But long story short, I'm needing to support balancing my hormones and also reduce any symptoms of possible insulin resistance. So Whole30 has been a really great option for me to go, and I've done Whole30 before, and this is now my fourth round of doing it, but this time I'm doing it for the long haul. Usually I've just done it 30 days at a time, but this time I'm doing it for 90 days because that's how long it takes sometimes for our hormones to get back in balance. So what I wanted to offer today is my top tips for eating out on Whole30. And when I used to do Whole30s before this journey, I dreaded just eating out. It's almost like I'd rather not go out. I didn't want to ask the questions. I just felt like super needy. I didn't want to be that person, but it's true though that if you're eating that way or this way, you're going to be that person, and that's totally fine. That's something that I had to come to terms with. And so anyway, I would try to avoid eating out as much as possible. I would just do like a plain salad with, no cheese, croutons, or dressing or anything, but just like vegetables and oil and vinegar. And then I would bring like my own protein, which doesn't always work if you're at like a business luncheon or something. And so I would do that and, stay compliant. And I just thought that eating out was a drag and I never wanted to do it. And that, I realized doing this for 90 days that just wasn't going to fly. I was going to need to be going out as I traveled. And I knew that, 90 days is a long time not to go out and do things with friends or have date night with my husband. And, I just knew I needed to figure it out and that it couldn't be that bad. And it's really not. That's what I found, that it's not that bad if you are ready and prepared to eat out and stay compliant, then you can be just fine. So I just wanted to share some of my tips and things that I've learned as I've eaten out 6 times since I've been on Whole30, and that's probably more than you should. But just with traveling and some other celebration stuff that's been going on, I have been out 6 times. So some tips I wanted to share, I have some of them written down to make sure I don't miss anything. But the first thing is that if it's possible, I always like to research the menu before even going to a place. And even before that, to find a restaurant, I will Google like grass-fed burger in Birmingham. That's where I'm at. I'm in Alabama. Or a farm-to-table restaurant, local, whatever. Local, whatever you're looking for that would be compliant, that would work for you. And usually I can just Google that or use Yelp or something like that, and I'm able to find a restaurant that would work if I get to choose. If I'm not in control of where we're going and a place is chosen, I will then either way, I will just research the menu ahead of time. Most menus are online, fortunately, so you can usually figure things out. If not, and you still want to be prepared, you can just call the restaurant. That's a good option too. So what I'll do when I pull up the menus, I'll look at what menu items could work. I mean, obviously there's going to be things that just won't even work no matter what you try to change about it. But, lots of times the salads are a great option. Obviously there are ingredients that you would ask for them to leave off, like cheese or bacon or cranberries. Those are usually sweetened. Candied nuts, that kind of stuff. You ask them to leave that off, and then just oil and vinegar for dressing. That's way easier than asking them about all the ingredients in their dressings. And then sometimes you need to be creative with looking at menus. Like for sandwiches and burgers, for example, just ask for them without the buns and without the cheese and anything else that isn't compliant. And then other things are like pretty obvious, like steakhouses are great if you like steak, because you just can order the steak, ask it for it without butter, and then get some compliant sides that are just plain. And there's some things that are obvious, and then other things where you maybe have to be creative and ask them to replace the grains of the vegetable and, things like that. But anyway, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself in my steps. But so the first thing I recommend is just researching all that you can about the website or the restaurant ahead of time, online if possible, and pick a few items that you think could work for you so that you can be prepared to ask questions about those certain items. And I always like to call ahead with my questions if I have time and if I am able to. It's kind of nice just to get all that out of the way and let them know I'm coming, and just express appreciation ahead of time that I am going to need some help with finding something that I want and need. And then, also with the menu, now I'm reversing, with the menu, if they have an allergen list, a lot of menus and restaurants online have an allergen list, and you can look at what's in there, and that is one of the easiest ways to figure out if there's something on the menu that you can have or not. And if you're able to call, that's great too. If not, that's okay. So when you get to the restaurant, and if there's a wait too, I'll make a point to do this. I will just ask the hostess or the wait staff. I'll just let them know that I have some dietary restrictions for health reasons and that I have some questions about the menu. And just, if they're really busy, I just ask, whenever you're free, I'd love to just ask. And, a server, of course, is going to be there to answer your questions because that's part of their job. But if there's a wait, I will ask the hostess so I can speak to a manager or someone to help me figure out what I want. And then once I have the menu, I've picked out a few items that could work. These are some of the questions I ask. I ask if they have a gluten-free menu. Obviously, with a Whole30, we're cutting out things other than gluten. But usually getting a gluten-free menu, you're narrowing a lot down. And so you can just, pick out a few things from there. So that's another great option too. And also when I ask for a gluten-free menu, it usually signals to the wait staff that they have someone that has food sensitivities, maybe allergies. I try to let them know that it's not an allergy, but I do have some dietary restrictions. So I need to be cautious of what I'm eating. So I'll ask if they have a gluten-free menu. When I have a specific item that I'm asking about, I will just ask about that item. I'll be like, does this have any dairy? Does this have any soy? Does this have any sugar? And, usually from menu item descriptions, I can tell if it's going to have grains or legumes. So obviously I'd ask them to leave that off and double the vegetables if possible. And I just feel like asking about a specific item is a lot easier on the wait staff and on yourself. So then they can just, if they're not sure, they are probably sure, but if they aren't, they can talk to the chef, the manager, and just double check, like, does this specific entree have dairy, sugar, soy? And I'm always really appreciative throughout all these asking these questions. And then also I will ask what oils will the food be cooked in, just because, soybean oil, peanut oil, butter, those aren't compliant. So just making sure that it's not cooked in any of those. And I will ask if possible if it can be cooked in olive oil, because almost all restaurants have olive oil and that's something that they could do. So again, and I also ask about spices. A lot of spices have sugar in them. So I will ask, if you don't want to ask about the spices and you just want to make it simple, I'll just ask for it to be cooked plain or just with salt and pepper, and that's usually fine. Or you can ask specifically about the spices if you're curious. And so those are some of my questions. Again, I'm always really, really nice and appreciative when I'm asking all of this. I know that, being in the restaurant business is hard work, that they're really busy, that they work really hard. And I am just really appreciative to them, and I really express a lot of gratitude to them. And it almost feels like maybe I overdo it, but I try to not overdo it, but I try to really emphasize how appreciative I am of them trying to accommodate my needs. And I tip extra too. I just do it. I think it's worth it. And I think it really helps me communicate even more how appreciative I am of their help and support as I'm trying to eat Whole30 and dine out. And so those are some of my tips. And just another closing thought I have is that I recommend not eating out until you have a few days of Whole30 under your belt at least. It just gives you an opportunity to really get to know the rules on Whole30 and like just to know what kind of questions to ask. I just think it's really helpful to already kind of be in a good, comfortable place as to what you are eating and not eating, and it just helps a lot. And then another tool that I love, I've gotten a lot of my tips from that Whole30 book I've mentioned, and then also the Whole30 forum on the Whole30 website is really, really helpful. It's something that's free. It's free to look at. You don't have to sign up for anything, but if you want to ask your own question or comment on someone else's question about the Whole30 program, you can get a free account and do that way. And they have a special forum for eating out and traveling, and I have really loved that. I have found it so helpful, and it's really awesome. It just gives you like certain questions to make sure you ask if you're eating out at a certain restaurant, or places that you can eat in a certain city if you're traveling. Also like tips on anything to take with you if you're eating at a certain restaurant, or you're just like going to be with family, so it doesn't matter if you bring something. So yeah, just things like that are really, really helpful, and there's lots of other great things on the Whole30 forum too. So anyway, I think those are all my tips for now. I have loved being able to figure out eating out on Whole30. I have fortunately found a couple restaurants that are very, very good about making their food compliant, and I've just loved it, because now when I just am tired of the meal prep, or I just want to go out, I have a few places that I know I can go and I can find something and have something that will be perfectly compliant, and it can be an enjoyable experience, and I've loved it. So I hope that this was helpful for you. I hope that if you're feeling like, gosh, that is so much, just give it a try. And don't be too hard on yourself or anything, and don't do it if you really don't want to, but give it a try. I know that I was hesitant, but it ended up working out big time. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful, and I'd love to hear from you. If you have any tips or anything to add to what I've said, I'd love to hear, and let's just all support each other on this journey. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again soon.